Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 20 of our Exploring the CVerse series in TEW 2020. This is ZEN, Art of Wrestling. They are up next, and one of the more unique companies in the game. And be sure to go back, check out all the other videos we've done to this point, exploring the other companies in the CVerse series. We're going to look at all the starting companies in the game in this series. So we still got quite a few to go, but we've done quite a few already. So check them all out. And now we move on to ZEN, 35th ranked company in the world, $55,000 to work with, a small company here to start, 29% momentum, 28% prestige. And as we look at the size here, you've got a bit of a long road to get to medium, to get to 65 in New Zealand. Now, look, you don't have to worry about necessarily spreading the love. It's just New Zealand. That's what it's all about. And, at least you kind of look at it from that standpoint. So that's your top goal, is basically doubling your popularity in your home region. So that will probably take a little bit for ZEN to be able to get there. But it has embraced being a small company, and that's something you can do as well as you look at this. And one of the challenges will be this number right here, this $55,000. Can you grow the company with limited finances? If you want the background on ZEN, first professional wrestling organization in New Zealand, and as you can see, kind of a mix of styles, but has the lucha libre with the zany characters, and this is what I like about it, and we'll talk more about that in the product in a second. So fun shows for the whole family. ZEN is all about fun. I think that's the one word. If we want a one-word description, it's fun, and they also have pretty good wrestling to go along with it. And as I said, though, the battle is going to be money and being able to really keep your costs down, perhaps, and still try to grow at the same time. That can be a challenge. And so, hey, you can look at it from that standpoint. Or, you know what, you can just go into the editor and give yourself $1 million and do whatever you want with ZEN. But however you want to play, it's your game, right? Like, whatever you want to do. But that's kind of where ZEN is to start things off with here. All right, as we look at the product, because that is the next thing here. So the product is Lucha Fun ZEN style, and the core product is comic book Lucha Libre. And as I talked about a second ago, what is that, right? Like it's a really fun combination in my opinion, because it kind of combines all those different elements, Lucha Libre, comics, all those different things, and sort of the visual language of comic books, and really just the big, as you see here, the big dramatic rivalries with those huge payoffs. Hey, I tend to love those sometimes. So if you want to equate this to something like Lucha Underground, companies like that, you can definitely see the tie-in there, and again, kind of play it your own way. But I do like that aspect of it, just kind of having those two things blended together, and just the characters and the dramatic, over-the-top rivalries, those kind of things. That can be a lot of fun to book, in my opinion, in a wrestling game like this. So I think that's one of the more appealing aspects of ZEN for sure. The technical Rudo, you have that divide, but it's loosely enforced there. Now, all of this stuff certainly is important. Women's wrestling is integrated, and we'll get to that in just a second, talking about, just kind of the roster and the nature of everything there. But you do have women and men equally in terms of the wrestling. So that is integrated into it. All the stuff over here, it's a better product for workers because it's not as much of the wear and tear. So yeah, just having that lucha-based style, as we talked about with other promotions that we've discussed in the series. You do need storytelling and high spots, match aims for each of your shows. So that's worth noting. The usual divide here, there's really nothing that probably stands out too much in terms of kind of what this is. So on each of your shows, you'll have that match angle split there. The usual stuff you would expect with Lucha Libre. You'll need some storylines for sure. Those match aims, and again, just kind of unmaskings, all those different things. Those are just part of the Lucha Libre tradition, and we'll play into it for sure. So, the product I think could be very appealing, just with kind of all the different elements and the traditions that go along with it. I think that's certainly one of the more appealing aspects of playing with ZEN. Now to the event schedule. As we could say, continue. It's just a normal event schedule, although normal could be, depending on how you want to use that. These are the names here, I think, is a lot of fun to think about, because you've got all these different names, just for what it's worth. Way of the Warrior, that's your season finale in July. But you know what I'm going to say? I like the fact that there are graphics, they're individualized. sort of shows that really set these things apart. It's not just a blank screen. You've got a lot of different things here. And so, ZEN just being what it is, I think the show names are very fun. You could come up with a theme somehow for all of these. I think it's, like I said, it's sort of just different than a lot of other promotions. And so I think there's a lot of fun concepts you can work with just, within this. And so I really like the event schedule, and it adds, again, that this is ZEN. Like, it's ZEN when you look at some of these things. You see the pay-per-view name, the event names, some of the other stuff. We'll look at the titles here. Like, it's ZEN. Like, this company sets itself apart because you know exactly what some of these titles are. The master title, so you're the ZEN master. You're the champion. That's it, the main title here. And so strong lineage of champions. You can look at the Harmony Championship, the tag team titles, there, so you can look at it from that standpoint. And then you've got the conceptual title, which there is no physical belt for the conceptual title. And, I don't even know how to pronounce the first name here. We're going to go with Woodchuck to pronounce her full name here. We're just going to call her Woodchuck. Calliope? We're going to try that, okay? So Woodchuck is your current conceptual champion, but there's no physical title belt, but it yet is a very strong honor to have this in ZEN. So whatever that means to you, what could you make this conceptual championship that has no belt? I think that's also something that is very ZEN-like here when we look at just the way this company is kind of, set up. So yeah, there's a lot of entertaining aspects I like about this company right off the bat. Your usual, small company, no child companies, no developmental, no training facilities. You kind of have a blank slate here because you have no current relationships with anyone. So if you ultimately decide you want to do kind of a, some sort of trading agreement or anything like that, but you have to remember kind of where you are too. You are in New Zealand, maybe not going to be trading workers necessarily with companies in Mexico and places like that right off the bat or anything, but you've got a pretty good roster to work with, and we'll talk about that here shortly. You do have two stables to start with here. The Alien Armada, not a major player, but you can kind of see how everything came together. Reading the bio here, so I love this line. It's the latest in the big Rudo threats that ZEN have faced, although this time the entire world is at stake, so no pressure. So the entire world's at stake, but it's not a big deal, really. Let's be honest. So don't worry about it. It's just the Alien Armada that the entire world could be done with if these guys, take over the world. So just depends on what happens with Laguna the Loyal, Man of War, Deathwatch Beetle, and of course, Guard the Conqueror. Whatever they decide to do, the entire world's in their hands. So no big deal. Skullduggery here, an important part of the landscape. So, you've got a pretty good group here in terms of their skills, and we'll get to some of these guys in a second in particular. But so yeah, I think this is a pretty fun group here with a lot of interesting talents and a really very, very, defining sort of group logo here for the stable. So storylines, you can read through these, of course. You're not meeting the current, necessity in terms of the heat you need. So you got to bring, I think, a couple of these up to the 35 level, but, again, that's very easy to do. Tag team experience. You don't have a lot of tag teams that are experienced, but that can be part of your focus too, is to kind of improve the experience. You've only got, 3 teams? We've only got 1 team over 60 in experience, but it's kind of fun to maybe build a new tag team division. Again, based on the Alien Armada here with Deathwatch Beetle and Laguna the Loyal. So maybe they are the future of the tag team division, or maybe the only tag team left, if you really think about it. Once they take over the world, there may not be anyone other, they may be the tag team division. They may just wrestle air. That could be a possibility, of course. So, all right, like we said, everything else is just kind of, set there. Let's look at the creative section. Pumpkin Jack is your top star, and for easy reasons here to understand, good in terms of sort of the basics here. You can see, good aerial skills as well. 43 popularity in New Zealand. Got the big win over Halloween Night in August 2015, so that cemented him kind of as the top technico on the roster. 31 years old, so Pumpkin Jack, your franchise player without question. Next big thing is you got a good group here. Variety of characters, as we say. I mean, I think that's what's fun to me. Trevor Feather, I love the fact that rhymes. Good skills really across the board here. And as you can see, kind of a top-class heel comedy act. So part of that there. Damian Dastardly, we looked at him on the I think it was the APW video, wasn't it? In terms of maybe people that APW could go snag to fill the roster up a little bit. He's a very talented person, and he's going to be someone I would say in demand when you look at the skills, star quality, sex appeal. Oh, Damien here just got it all. So, but can you keep him in terms of the finances, all those things? That could be it. We talked about Woodchuck here. Again, someone else kind of seen as 24 years old, so very, very young. The conceptual champion and got some pretty good skills to work with. Obviously, the starting sex appeal here could help with some of that, even though, as we said, kind of with the product. I mean, we'll see. But remember, women's wrestling is integrated, so how does she play into your booking plans? And that's always an interesting challenge to think about. Buckminster Snark, which is a top 25 name in CVerse lore. I have no question about that. Good skills here, star quality, charisma, so someone else you can look at as kind of a prospect for the future. And, other people here as well. Mr. Hyde, good star quality, decent skills here, good charisma. The ZEN Harmony, one half of the ZEN Harmony champs, that's a tag team champion. So Killer B, another one. Pretty good skills in terms of the work rate. So yeah, I think these are, kind of your starting points if you want to look at these sections and see, who are kind of the people that stand out there as well. And if we just look at the roster as a whole, I think what I like about ZEN is if we just start at the top and we just keep scrolling down, like visually you can just tell like there's just a lot of different characters. Like Crime Buster here, like Crime Buster stands out. Like when I see the young lion here in Crime Buster, 24 years old, decided to get his career into a life of stopping crime. And he's doing it with a mask. Tremendous. Like you just see kind of the separators in terms of the characters. Cyanide here, someone else that, 34 years old, certainly, been a big part of ZEN and all of that. But you see just the different characters, and we've kind of already talked about some of them. But that's what I like about this company. Halloween Night, how could we go without mentioning Halloween Night here? Kind of the major player, as it says, from day one. And now it has all the skills, but is sort of letting the new group kind of come into play. But you can still, I would definitely still use him, in a big way just to put other stars over. That's a good way to do it, probably with Halloween Night at this point. But as I said, you go through, you have some pretty defining looks and styles on this ZEN roster. So I think that's something else that you look at that could be kind of fun to do as you're booking and those kind of things. So, I really kind of like the way the roster stands out. And as we pointed out, I mean, you've got, I know it's like sometimes why do I filter by star qualities? I just like to look at people that, have those kind of abilities to eventually be those top stars. And when you look at it here, you've obviously got some people that can do that. And it's a roster with a variety of ages, I think we look at too, in terms of like, all right, how many people do you have under 30? A pretty good group under 30 here. So you're building some young talent, and I think that's, again, something else you can lean into as you look at ZEN and what they could accomplish. Just a variety of characters, the variety of young prospects you can build up. But really, I think from a booking standpoint, you can really have a lot of fun just with the idea of combining the Lucha Libre comic-type style. If you're a Lucha Underground fan, maybe that's kind of the direction you go with it, but you've just got a visually defining company here, whether it's the events, whether it's the workers, the titles, all of that. Like ZEN just has a very clearly defined product and, approach, and that's what I like about it. So probably one of my favorite companies, just from not necessarily, going to go on to be the top company in the world, but just sort of a promotion I think you can look at and just kind of have a lot of fun with right off the bat and come up with a lot of, entertaining storylines that may be out there, but you know what? That's ZEN, right? So that's what ZEN does. So there you go. There's some thoughts on ZEN, a very fun, small company in TEW 2020. So again, be sure to leave your thoughts, tips, tricks, all that stuff. If you played as ZEN, what's worked for you, what hasn't, any tips for other players, that's always helpful. That's one of the best parts we've had this series. It's not me just learning about some of these companies on the fly. It's really you guys' comments and insight into playing with these companies and letting everyone else know, what's worked for you and what hasn't, and that can help other people too as they dive into some of these saves in TEW 2020. But as always, be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out all the other videos we've had in the Exploring the CVerse series. Check out everything else on the channel, WWE AEW, WCW. They're all there, and a lot more to come here as we continue to move forward. And speaking of, on the next episode of our Exploring the CVerse series, we head back to North America as we go to ACPW. We go to Canada for All Canada Pro Wrestling.